Hi all, Jeanette here. Today is April the 16th, the day after tax season, I guess. So we're going to celebrate by planting tomatoes. Not really, it doesn't have anything to do with the tax day, but today seems like a good day to plant tomatoes. It's been really cold here, but we're going to plant them in our heated high tunnel. And so we've got an edge on getting them out early because we can heat that building. We have a stove in the front and a furnace that's in the back, and it takes a lot of wood and a lot of work. But today we're going to plant the tomatoes and get started on our tomato season. So come along and we'll show you how we do it. These are the tomatoes that we're going to plant. The variety we choose are called Mountain Merit. We've transplanted them last into 4-inch pots, and they're pretty sturdy. I think they're ready to go. The root system on them is pretty well filled out. They're not root bound by any means, but I think they're ready to go. First thing, I'm going to make sure they're watered pretty good. I don't want them sopping wet, but they're going to, some of them will sit over there in there for quite a while. And a few of them are already a little bit dry, so I'm going to give them a good drink. So we'll take all these trays of plants over to greenhouse number 3 and get the process started. The skid steer comes in handy in so many ways. This is what we call greenhouse number 3. It's a 20 by 100 feet. This is where we planted a row of green beans. And these are the green beans that finally decided to pop through. They were planted in pretty cold ground with sawdust put over them and then black plastic laid on top of that to increase the heat.
House is 20 by 95 feet, and so I laid out the rows 4 foot apart, which gives us 4 rows for our tomatoes, and then 4 foot between the last one and the side so we can pick them. And on the first spacing, I also put in a 1 row of green beans at split the difference at 2 foot. I figure they will be out of here by the time the tomatoes get large enough to need the room. We're going to space the tomatoes 2 foot apart down the rows, and then we will put a stake in at each one, a bamboo stake, and then we will have strings coming down to the stake, and the tomatoes will grow up these strings. We'll have to put a clip on them every so often, and they'll grow up to the top here on these strings. We use a drip system for our water in here, so all we have to do is turn on the valve and the whole place will water. And also we have our fertilizer applicator hooked into the line so we can put our alternating fertilizer applications at the same time we water. Placed all the water lines on this side of where the line will be. The tomatoes will be planted on that side of that line, and the water's on this side. And I did that all the way across so I know where to dig the holes for the tomatoes. Because if we stick this down there, which is the tool we use to dig the hole for the plants, and hit the water line, it'll cut a hole in it, and then you gotta patch the hole. So I want to be clear all the time to go on on that side of each row. We alternate two different chemicals, fertilizer, with our tomatoes. 1 week we put 418, what, 38? Mm-hmm. 418-38 in.
It's specially designed for tomatoes, what tomatoes need. It's also got things like iron and manganese and molybdenum and zinc and things like that that tomatoes specifically need.
And then the next week
we use what's called InstaCal Plus, and it's got 8% nitrogen and 8% calcium. Tomatoes are high calcium users, so that's one thing that if you are having trouble with blossom end rot, you might be short on calcium, but not necessarily so.
It could be potassium you're short on too. Tomatoes are pretty finicky. They need what they need and they don't need what they don't need. And so you have to be a little bit particular and use a soil test to kind of see what you need. We've used this program for the last 2 and maybe 3 years, and we're well pleased with the tomatoes that seem to work with it. And so that's what we're going to use again this year. But anyway, you have to alternate these two fertilizers, because if you put them all in at once, it will harden in the lines and mess up your drip lines. So you use one week and the other the following week, and just keep alternating them all season. We came up with several buckets here, and we're going to fill them at the hydrant because it's quicker, and then we'll put a cup full in at each plant.
Here it's cold and windy, and you walk into here and it's calm and hot. I mean, you're in here for just a short time and you want to take a jacket off.
Well, we're ready to put in number 1 here, so I just take a hole out with our tool. We're going to plant the tomatoes 2 feet apart, so I got me a measuring stick and get them somewhere pretty close that way. We'll just keep on going down the row 2 foot at a time, and get to the end, we'll do another row. And then when we get to that, we'll put in our little stakes and clip them to the stake so they'll stand upright. And then we'll put our strings down and clip that to the plant also. Well, the boss is here and checking up on me, and as of right now I've got about 2 1/3 of the rows of tomatoes. So that means I got 1 row and 2/3 of another one to get all of our regular tomatoes planted. We will have several rows of cherry tomatoes a little bit later, after it's kind of frost-free date. But everything's going well, and just hope they grow big and sweet. one more plant and we will have the tomatoes planted. As far as the slicers are concerned, we'll have a lot of cherry tomatoes planted later, but got to get by frost-free date because there's no heat in the house where we're going to plant them. And that is it for today, except for turning on the water and fertilizer. Yeah, I'm gonna wait until tomorrow till my legs straighten back out to put the stakes in and the strings on them. So I'm almost through with this day, and I'm glad. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you another time.